The Station 6 is the quietest 9mm pistol, and today we're gonna look at its unique rubber suppressor. Stick around to find out. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tennis at the Range. Today we're gonna be talking about the B&T Station 6 pistol. We'll be going over the story of B&T and the evolution from World War II all the way to this pistol today. For those who are new on the channel, I'm currently based in France and I created this channel because there's a lot of cool guns here and I wanted to show you guys. Before we talk about the pistol, let's talk about the brand. B&T was created in May of 1991 in a small town called Spiez in Switzerland. Two guys teamed up, Karl Brügger, which was the total tech nerd and the machinist who loved building stuff, and Heinrich Thomet, the businessman. They start a little company called Brügger Thomet Feintechnik. I'm interrupting this video to talk to you about CNP Tir. CNP Tir is a gun shop in Tours, which is about 3 hours away from Paris, and they're the gun shop that lent me most of the pieces that are in the channel. They are the first ones to believe fully in Tennis at the Range, so I really have to thank them a lot for that, and I'm really grateful. They just lent me the guns, I do whatever I want with them, and then I give them back. They have absolutely everything, and I was very surprised when I walked in and I saw all that there is here. They have all the latest things that come out from the industry, and they also have a bunch of old vintage rifles with a lot of history. They truly are a one-stop shop for anything related to firearms. I am right now in their vault, and you can see there's just everything. So again, thank you very much to CNP. Now let's get to the video. Their very first products were very high quality suppressors for the Swiss domestic market. Switzerland has actually loved quiet shooting since the late 1800s, so there was already a culture around suppressors. But Karl and Heinrich wanted to make it better. Their motto right from the start was everything from one source, everything fits, and everything works the way it should. That's pretty cool. Pretty fast, they started supplying suppressors for Glock, HK, SIG, Beretta, and many more, you name it. If a major gun maker in Europe or in the US needed a top-tier can, they just called B&T.
Yo.
Hello, shorty.
In 1996, they even built their first complete firearm. It was called the BT96 and it was basically a semi-auto version of the MP5. In 2004, things changed when Heinrich Thomet stepped away. Karl Brügger bought him out and became the sole owner. They packed up and moved the whole operation to the neighboring town of Thun, which is still on that same lake. Once Karl was running the show solo, the company exploded, but in the best way. In 2002, they bought all the drawings, patent and tooling for the Steyr TMP. They tore it apart, made over 30 different engineering improvements, and relaunched it in 2004 as the MP9, which you might know as a civilian as the TP9. In 2011, they officially rebranded from Brügger Thomet to just B&T, and that same year they launched the APC series, which means Advanced Police Carbine. It was a whole platform that could swap between 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, 10mm, 5.56, 300 Blackout, and even 308, with over 50% of parts commonality, so agencies didn't have to stock a million different spares in their armories. And yes, because absolutely everything does, the 9mm version of the APC takes Glock magazines.
I'm the king of the world!
In 2012, they built a brand new 5,000 square meter factory, which is right across the old one in Thun, and they opened their first flagship store in 2016. And they launched the USW, which is Universal Service Weapon, which is basically a pistol with a folding stock, kind of like the Flux Raider, so that's pretty cool, because they were inspired from the 2015 Paris attacks where you needed to conceal something but still be able to shoot. However, there was still more to come, because 2019 was a huge moment for B&T. The compact APC-9 wins the US Army subcompact weapons contract. Now, let's talk about where the Station 6 actually come from, because this thing has a lot of history behind it. This is a direct modern update of the British Welrod pistol from World War II. Back in 1942, the British Special Operations Executive, SOE, needed a weapon for their spies and resistance fighters that was silent. It was designed in 1942 by Major Hugh Reeves, which was an engineer and an inventor, at the British Special Operations Executive, Station 9 in Welwyn Garden City. This is where the name comes from. Well for Welwyn and Rod. Rod was slang back in the day for pistols, so it was Welrod. And in that station there were other gadgets that also had well in the front, so you would have the well gun and the well bike, it depended. The goal was to make a concealable, ultra-quiet weapon for resistant fighter, SOE agent, and sabotage teams to eliminate sentries, guards, or other high-value targets without alerting anyone. So the production started around 1943 in the Birmingham Small Arms Company, with some involvement from other unnamed UK factories. Roughly 2,800 were made during World War II. But total production, including post-war, was estimated to be up to 14,000. Many were unmarked or sanitized for deniability, except for serial numbers. The blueprints still remain partially classified in the UK. There were two main variants of the Welrod. There was the Mark I, which was made in 9mm, and the Mark II, which was made in 32 ACP. It had a wipe suppressor, which we're gonna be going over soon. But during World War II, SOE agents, OSS, and members of the resistance all around the world planned for mass assassinations of SS and Gestapo officers. Then, after the war, the US Army Special Forces in Berlin kept them just in case the Russians invaded. It was also used by MAC-V SOG in Vietnam, it was used by the British SAS in the Falklands War, and even the Gulf War and Desert Storm. After that, B&T designed the VP9. VP meant veterinary pistol, and it was officially marketed for humane veterinary euthanasia of large and dangerous animals to avoid startling herds or causing hearing damage. However, it was clearly designed as a covert tool for special operations and intelligence agencies. There were some problems with the ATF because the grip actually came off with the magazine, and a lot of other issues that we're not going to go into today, but B&T ended up updating and creating this one, the Station 6. The name Station 6 directly references the SOE Station 6, which was the Berkeley Hall Weapons Acquisition Station, and the Station 9, which was Wellwing Garden, where the original Welrod was created, so it's kind of like an homage to that. The changes that they did over the BP9 was lengthening the barrel/grip, they switched to standard 1911 magazines, and made the suppressor removable and threaded for easier NFA compliance. And the result is a more user-friendly, higher capacity pistol. This one is in 9mm, however, there's a 45 ACP version. I've talked about the history of the brand, I've talked about the history of this gun. Now let's look into it from tip to butt. Here we have the B&T Station 6. So let's unbox it and see what comes in the bag. We can see here that there's two suppressors, so let's talk about those in just a second. Then we have the pistol over here. Let's take this out. We have the rubber baffles for the suppressors, which we're gonna go through. Some tooling over here and some paper. Let's quickly go over the tools and what they are. So if you unscrew this right here, you have a small screwdriver, a rod, and this hex key thing. And here is the famous Station 6. It is only about 6.9 inches or 175mm without the suppressor attached, so from here to here. It weighs right around 2 pounds, which is just around 900 grams, and the suppressor screws right here in the front. Let's talk about the two suppressors. But before that, let's talk about how suppressors work. So a firearm suppressor, which is commonly called a silencer, reduces the loud bang of a gunshot by controlling the high pressure, very hot gases that are coming out of the barrel from the explosion of the bullet. Now, it doesn't really make the gun truly silent like it does in movies. There's usually 25 to 35 decibels less from a suppressor. The bullet still flies normally, but the gases are slowed, cooled, and they are released gradually instead of all at once. This one is a regular baffle suppressor. We have an expansion chamber in the beginning of the suppressor. This first big empty space gives the gases room to spread out and lose pressure/temperature immediately. Then we have baffles. So normally there's stacks of 4 to 15, and these ones force the gases into a longer twisting path. So depending on how the suppressor is made and who is making it, there's different baffle designs. But the main objective is to slow down and cool the gases so there's not that big bang. Once the bullet has exited and everything is cooling down, the gases gradually exit the suppressor. So this is a regular training suppressor. And this one, you might notice the difference. This one is a rubber wipe suppressor. So let's talk about this one. So the rubber wipe suppressor contains an initial expansion chamber, just like in this one. And aside from this expansion chamber, there's thick rubber silicone wipes that are separated by metal spacers. So here are the wipes that we are talking about. You can see they're about a centimeter or just under a centimeter thick. So what happens when the bullet is fired is that the gases are gonna come out into this expansion chamber. And as the bullet passes by, if you see here the small cross, the bullet is gonna go through this and it's gonna be immediately sealed right after. So the gases are gonna stay trapped into this suppressor. The wipes basically act as a one-way valve, so gas doesn't rush out instantly and it is forced to expand, cool, and it's gonna bleed out far more slowly, so it's gonna make a lot less noise. The training suppressor can fire basically an unlimited amount of rounds, you basically need to clean it. But this one, since the bullet is gonna be passing through, the seal and the wipe is gonna get degraded, which means that for the first box of ammo that you shoot, it's gonna be relatively quiet, and then the sound quality is gonna get degraded every time. So you do need to replace these. Also, a very cool thing to make suppressors even quieter is to run them wet. Basically, it means that you're adding a sacrificial liquid or gel inside the suppressor, which it can be water, petroleum jelly / Vaseline. You can even put ultrasound gel in there. So when the super hot gases come out into the suppressor and hit the water or whatever you put in there, it's gonna instantly vaporize it into steam. This means that it's gonna cool the gases dramatically, it's gonna slow down the exit of the gases even more, and it's gonna add around 5 to 15 decibels more of suppression. If you want to run this suppressor wet, you basically need to put a bunch of Vaseline or gel or water in between the wipes. Now let's see how you can access these wipes. I showed you in the beginning that they shipped a hex tool like that. So you're basically gonna put it here and unscrew. This is what it looks like unscrewed. So when I say wet, you can put a little bit of Vaseline right here. Now let's put it back together. And now we can close it. So this is our wipe suppressor. The cool thing about these suppressors being made for this specific pistol is that there's a small O-ring over here that's gonna perfectly line up with the thing right here, and it's gonna make the pistol even quieter. Then we have the sighting system, which the sighting system actually reminds me kind of like what a Glock would look like. You can see right here. It's literally the same thing as a Glock, but these ones are metal. The trigger's not that good, but let's see how it is. So to cock it, you need to turn it here. There's a small take up right here, and then you just pull strong. Very, very hard trigger. It's not really good, but since you don't really need to do any fast splits with it, it doesn't really matter. Coming down a little bit more, we have the magazine release button, which in this case is not ambidextrous, but you press here. This is a regular standard 1911 pattern magazine. The VP9 had its own proprietary magazines. This specific one is a Mech Gar magazine, but it will take basically any 1911 9mm magazine. What B&T also has done, which is quite cool, is that you can cut this right here if you're brave enough, and then you can have your own Welrod, because this would be cut, and you would only need to stick this magazine to this part that you have cut to make it as close as the Welrod as possible, because the Welrod didn't have this full grip. Going a little bit back, we have the safety right here. So the safety is just a simple grip safety. And what's interesting about this grip safety is that without pressing this grip safety, you cannot pull the bolt back. So you see, I can't really pull it. So now that I press it, the bolt can come freely. To field strip it, you basically have one small screw over here, which I've already loosened, and you take out this very small screw, you press your safety, you twist, you pull back, and you have the bolt. It has the locking lugs that are in the back. There's a small extractor on top over here. There's no plunger for this one, and you can kind of appreciate here there's a spring which is for your firing pin. To assemble it, you just line everything up, put it back, twist it, put your screw, make sure you're not cross-threading it. This is what it looks like compared to my Glock 45. And I'm bringing this one because I want to explain specifically why this gun was made in bolt action. Many semi-automatic guns obviously will cycle, and this cycling means that there's going to be a lot of noise. So even if your bullet is very subsonic and the suppressor works very well, the fact that the slide moves makes a lot of noise. And now if you compare that semi-automatic big noise that it makes over here with just this, you see that this bolt action is a lot more quiet. What also happens is that when the gun is being fired, there's some gases that can escape from over here, which will lead to some noise. And here there's literally no gases that can escape because this is not open. The Glock being a tilting barrel means that your barrel moves. So when you have a suppressor, it can lead to unreliability issues. If you've seen, and I'm sure you have, the United Health CEO that was unalived, the assassin had a semi-automatic pistol that was jamming every shot, because if you don't have something that's called a Nielsen device on your suppressor on most guns, the gun will jam because it won't be able to properly cycle. Again, this will not happen on the Station 6 because there's nothing that's moving. So this is the B&T Station 6. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. This was a super cool one to make for me. Thanks again to CNP Tir to giving me access to this beautiful pistol. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment down below. And until the next one, Dennis out.